Welcome back to me talking about things that don't make sense but somehow make sense, right? I don't know what to name this series, but put in a comment down below what series you want to call it. But I feel like the one thing I want to ramble about, nothing negative, was I feel like technology is expanding in the way I think consoles should be more improvised. I talked about this on this channel as a short, but I want to expand that a little bit more. So I talked about, a little bit like graphics cards for all the things for PCs that they all have for their upgrades. And I've said in that statement that I feel like they will be too expensive for people who do PC flipping. They'll have to go back to the older cards as like in the future, of course, and just make it where it's optimized, right? I feel like consoles should take this as an advantage because consoles were strictly made for gaming. That's all it is. And it's always has been like that, strictly for gaming. Because if you look at consoles, they barely crash compared to PC. PCs crash a lot more compared to consoles. They are more optimized than PC, and that's always has been like that for, I wouldn't say years, but recently it has been more like that than the past. Like the PS3 and I would say Xbox 360 was no better than PC because they had, of course, performance issues because there wasn't any greatest cards at the time. But if the PS3 was in today, like if you had the PS3 physically, I feel like you should be able to mod it or at least put some different parts in to make it look amazing with all these things that wouldn't have performance issues, right? And that's what I want to talk about. I feel like with the resources we have today, we should able to have the biggest components. I would say biggest because there's big frame rates and stuff. Just take out ray tracing because ray tracing doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't add on anything. But if you add all these stuff to the console, it'll make it so much better. And I feel like the console wars would end because not only you wouldn't have exclusives, all games for consoles will be exclusive. I'm not gonna talk about handhelds because there's one that I will not mention. It's not a handheld, not a console in my opinion. But the two consoles, I feel like would be more optimized and would compete against PC, and I feel like that should be more upfront. Because let me add an example, right? For PS5, I'm not sure about Xbox, so I won't talk about Xbox because I have no experience on it. But with PlayStation, we have microphones that's implemented in the controller. Not the greatest microphone, but it's a big dream and innovative, and it's also creative. Because in a PS4, we didn't have this function. We had to wear headphones. And that's where I think in today's generation, we should take that more of an advantage. Because if you can have microphones and like a controller, and if we have controller updates, right? Then we should be able to have more upgrades inside of the console, because inside the consoles, there's not very much guts inside of it, right? There's not much stuff inside. I've seen videos where if you look inside a console, there's not a lot of stuff in it. But that's where this comes into play. If you can install, because on a PS5, I was talking this with my dad, right? If you can install a kind of like part for storage that easy and simple, then you should be able to add more stuff into the console to make it more better and compete with PC. Because here's the three things, right? I mentioned in my short that if you have one performance, that let's say if you want to do split screen or streaming, you would not have performance issues. Another thing is I want to add here is what's not from that statement from the short, because I had to compress my thoughts only for 3 minutes. But with controller, if you have controller updates, this makes it better. Excuse me, sorry. But if you have controller updates, it makes it so much better, and it performs really well, then it makes it better than PC. Then you also have a third thing that I might add in this. Of course, DVDs, blah, 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 we get it. But the whole thing I want to add here is the third thing. If we can add a camera, and the console doesn't crash compared to a PC, then it might be a huge competition. You can add, like, say, a 4K camera it's hypothetical. There's only a future. I'm thinking the future, right? If we're gonna add like a 4K camera, like one of those big 4K cameras, add into the PS5 or another console, let's say like that, right? And if it doesn't crash and it performs really well, then PC has huge competition. And it also has a lot more things that, with PC right now, there's a lot of things they have that we don't. And they have a lot more parts compared to consoles. And that's a fact, right? Look at consoles. There's less parts in them. And I feel like if you add more parts in it, there would be more competition. And I think that is fair. And the console wars would literally end. And I think consoles would team up against PC. Now, I also want to talk about between phones, right? Phones is ridiculous. And there's a reason why I say it's ridiculous, because they're so thin. I hate how thin they are. Where they're getting so thin to the point they have less parts in them. And that's annoying. We should be able to have a really beefy phone that has a lot of parts in it. Sure, it will be expensive, just like how consoles are. But it's going to be a bang for your buck, because I guarantee you that it's going to be so innovative. And also with competing in the market, it might make it where, again, it's competing with at least either console or another phone or PC if we had these parts. I know it's only a dream, and it's upsetting, but if we have like a big brain, big creative mind, if we have creativity, right, we have all of this, we can make this so much better to the point that a company would compete to another company with these, not the same specs, but the same creativity. And there should be more creativity in the world right now. And I know Japan is like in the future, but we should also be in the future instead of the past. And I feel like that we should get off of the ground, because we have roots. I picture as a human that we have roots and we're stuck in the ground and we're not forever growing. The only way we grow is to get water, we get resources, we get to the sun. And the sun is like games, right? That's the sun. And we get a lot of stuff out of that. And that's how we grow, right? We gamers need to grow and get out of the ground. We need to be in the future just like in Japan is right now. We need to be in the future where, with technology, where if Japan's doing the same thing, we should do as well. And yes, it's going to be expensive. I am not doubting that. I'm not taking that out of the occasion. But that would make it really big. And I think that might make it great. And especially for streaming. You wouldn't have issues either. You wouldn't have issues if you're streaming. I know I said this, but I want to make this clear that if you're streaming on phone, and if it's not having any issue, then you can be able to stream on phone without a problem. I hate how a phone really heats up because how thin they are, and it requires a lot of usage. But if you can have a lot of parts that stabilizes that, then you would have no issue, and your battery wouldn't drain as often. And that would be a fact soon in the future. It's only opinion right now because it's part of a theory that when we have imagination, it's a theory we can add together. Because in theory, if you have all of the parts inside of a phone or a console, it doesn't heat up as often and it doesn't take up a lot of battery, sitting with the controllers or whatever, then you can be gaming for a pretty long time or streaming for a pretty long time. Especially with better microphones. We should have a better microphone in phones and controllers. I'm not sure about cameras yet, but we'll see. But a lot of it is innovative, because if we had a portable camera with a microphone in it, wasn't the greatest, greatest, but it was still innovative, right? Yes, part of the past, but we should be more in the future. That's where it should be. Excuse me. I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it's valid. We should be able to have a big dream that I have no experience of any of this, but I feel like we should be able to look at this. We as a community should look at this and say, we should move into the future and get this. Even it will take a long time, but we will be in the future and it will be so amazing, right? And that's where we'll be right now. And I feel like that's gonna be the greatest. And yes, I'm a man-child right now, but it's valid because I like being a man-child when it comes to things like technology. It makes me giggly like a boy, and I like being a boy when it comes to certain things like this. And I'm only serious when I talk about things with someone I talk to, like my best friend, and I talk to things about my best friend, and this is a serious thing. Because of things like this, I'm a giggly little boy, and I'd rather be a giggly little boy because it expresses who I am. I know me more than anyone else, and that is something. And my best friend knows me more than I do, and that's kind of scary, right? But what the thing is that I like things like this that interests me, and I'll talk about things that interest when me and my best friend talk. But things like this, we should all be together, move into the future. That's the thing I wanted to talk about today. I know I kind of like spelled like a tech talk or whatever, but I want to bring it to you and see if you agree. Thanks for watching.